Before I start my presentation, I'm going to tell you a little story about Michelle. Michelle is 29 years old and she is from Ethiopia. She recently moved to the United States to go to college. When she returned home for college, she started coughing forcefully. She couldn't stop and she didn't know why. She went to the doctor to get some medicine for her cough. When she was all fine, she weighed 130 pounds. When she went to the doctor, she weighed 88 pounds. The doctor said there's something more serious than just a cough. Hello, my name is Isabell, and today I'm going to talk to you about tuberculosis. Overview. We're going to talk about the history, background, cause, latent TB, TB active, transmission, symptoms, risk factors, demographics, tuberculin skin test, TB blood test, experiment, treatment, prevention, and conclusion. History. Tuberculosis is caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis. There are many cases in developing countries as well as developed countries. Tuberculosis was found in ancient Egypt and during the Black Death. Scientists found TB decay in ancient Egyptian artifacts. So you know how the Black Death made people have a darker skin complexion and rotten? Well, tuberculosis did the opposite. It made people look pale and almost literally the color white. That's why it was called the White Death during that time period. Background. Tuberculosis is one of the most prevalent diseases today. Approximately 1/3 of the world's population is infected with tuberculosis. There are 7 to 8 million cases per year, and 2 to 3 million people die every year. Cause. Tuberculosis is caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It is also known as Koch's bacillus because Dr. Robert Koch found the bacteria in 1882. The bacteria is bacilli, which means it's rod-shaped, and it's only found in humans and is constantly found in the upper air sacs of the lungs. The bacteria needs oxygen to survive, so it's an obligate aerobe. There are 2 types of tuberculosis. One is latent TB infection and tuberculosis active. Latent tuberculosis infection is not infectious. You can't spread it to others. You don't have any symptoms and it doesn't make you sick. Well, tuberculosis active is the complete opposite. Transmission. Tuberculosis is transmitted horizontally, meaning person to person. A mode of horizontal transmission is spread through the air, or airborne. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease. When someone coughs, sneezes, or even speaks, you can be infected with tuberculosis. When a person coughs, speaks, or sneezes, tiny droplets are expelled into the air, and the droplets can stay there for several hours. Symptoms. Symptoms of tuberculosis are a bad cough for at least 3 weeks or longer, chest pain, coughing up blood or sputum. Sputum is mucus deep inside the lungs, weakness or fatigue, extreme weight loss, no appetite, chills, fever, and sweating at night. Risk factors. You're at an increased risk if you have spent time with a person that has TB. If you have visited or you're from a country where TB is very common, or you live or work where tuberculosis is common. You run a higher chance if you have HIV, if you're younger than 5, if you have other health problems that make it hard for the body to fight off, or if you smoke cigarettes or abuse alcohol or drugs. Tuberculosis is an opportunistic infection. That means it waits for your immune system to be weakened and then it attacks. Demographics. There are 4 states that represent 50.9% of the cases in the United States. The 4 states are Florida, California, New York, and Texas. Tuberculosis is common in African Americans, newborns, and young children in correctional facilities. Tuberculosis is high in African Americans because of financial elements in HIV. Tuberculosis and HIV work together in a way because it's easy to contract a disease once your immune system is weakened. Newborns and young children have a high count of tuberculosis because their immune system isn't fully developed. Correctional facilities have a high count of tuberculosis also because they force a lot of prisoners, normally 5 or more, into one cell, and the ventilation system is poor. Plus, you don't know the background of each prisoner. There are 2 testing methods to diagnose tuberculosis. One is tuberculin skin test, and the other is TB blood test. First, in TST, they inject PPD into your skin, into the inner surface of your forearm. The test should be read between 48 to 72 hours after administration. The test relies upon the extent of the raised, hard region or swelling of the arm. There is a positive and negative reaction, meaning a positive means you have tuberculosis and negative means you do not have tuberculosis. But sometimes the test can be wrong, and that's when false positive reactions and false negative reactions come into play. False positive reactions are when people react to the test even though they do not have tuberculosis. A false negative reaction means a person did not react to the test even though they may have tuberculosis. To determine if you have tuberculosis or not, you must get a chest x-ray. TB blood test. TB blood test is also known as interferon gamma release assay. It is a way to find out if you have TB germs in your body. It is a positive and negative result. Experiment. The purpose of my experiment is to target high-risk population of tuberculosis and try to put tuberculosis under control. The hypothesis was if you identify other high-risk neighborhoods in the country, you could possibly eliminate tuberculosis in the U.S. Procedure. First, they provided and recorded all the home addresses for all the reported TB cases in Smith County, Texas. Then they found the 2 largest and densest clusters in the county. 10 years later, they repeated the process. Then they compared the distribution of the tuberculosis cases before and after. Results. Of the 2,558 eligible individuals, 57.1% were tested. Of the 57.1% that were tested, 17.7% were TST positive. 10 years later, there were no tuberculosis cases in either projected neighborhood. Conclusion. If they put a stop to tuberculosis in 2 high-risk neighborhoods and communities, you can possibly eliminate tuberculosis in the nation. Treatment. To treat tuberculosis, you must take antibiotics for 6 to 9 months. The antibiotics are isoniazid, rifampin, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide. Prevention. To prevent tuberculosis, you can get vaccinated with Bacillus calmette-guerin, also known as BCG. You want to try to keep germs from spreading to a minimum. Some tips are to stay at home. When you stay at home, you want to stay in one room. You don't want to be in other rooms where a lot of people are there. Also, you want to ventilate the room, have the AC on, and have fans going because you want to move the tiny droplets. Also, you want to cover your mouth or wear a mask. Conclusion. Tuberculosis is one of the most prevalent killers of all time. It has taken more than 1 billion lives and continues to take 2 to 3 million lives per year. It is important to get tested for tuberculosis because you definitely do not want to be the 2 to 3 million people that die every year. Here are my references. Thank you.
A couple of questions for Steven.
Ashton.
So can latency ever become active, or are the two like almost completely different, separate?
They're completely different. Chris.
So I kind of got 2 quick ones. Do you think that tuberculosis will ever be like eradicated, or is that like really complicated and not likely at all?
I believe it's not likely at all.
The lady in your story, what was her name? And
Her name was Michelle.
okay, and so tuberculosis is opportunistic. So like, what did she have an opportunity that tuberculosis struck on, or?
She had diabetes.
Oh,
All right, jazz hands.